Orangutans are primates that are only found in Sumatra and Borneo. They are in the great ape family, and their name means person of the forest in Malay language. This is a fitting name considering we share 97% of the same DNA with them. They can live to be up to 40 years in the wild, but they're known to live to up to 60 in captivity, and they can weigh anywhere from 73 to 180 pounds. Their standing height is between 4 and 5 feet, and their fur is shaggy and red. Orangutans have a huge arm span, with males being able to stretch their arms an enormous 7 feet from fingertip to fingertip. These long arms come in handy considering that the orangutan spends about 90% of their time up in the trees. Orangutans, like most primates, are very resourceful and have even been observed using tools such as leaves as umbrellas. They are omnivores who spend their day foraging for mostly fruit and leaves, but they can also eat bark, insects, and even on rare occasions, meat. Overall, orangutans are solitary animals, and males are usually loners. As they travel among the forest, they communicate with each other using howls and rumbles in order to warn others to stay away. Mother and infant orangutans, however, share a very close bond. Infants stay with their mother some 7+ years until they develop all of the necessary skills for survival so that they can fend for themselves. Females do not reach sexual maturity until about 10 to 15 years old, and they only give birth once every 8 years, which is the longest time period for any animal. Some mothers give birth a maximum of every 5 years, but that's the best case scenario. They usually have one baby at a time, but occasionally they'll have a set of twins. All of this combined is why they have such a low reproductive rate, which makes the situation orangutans are currently facing even harder to solve. Like most animal species, the orangutan is really feeling the impact of human expansion. They are currently in a crisis and facing extinction. According to the World Wildlife Fund, there are only 54,000 Bornean orangutans left, making them endangered, and 6,600 Sumatran orangutans, making them critically endangered. Those numbers are practically nothing compared to the estimated 230,000 we had just a century ago. Just to put it into perspective, that's 4 times as many as we have today, lost in just 1 century. So, what's killing off the species? Let's start out with the biggest threat: deforestation. According to World Wildlife Fund, habitat loss is by far the greatest threat to orangutans. Huge tracts of forest have been cleared throughout their range to be used for agriculture, particularly for palm oil, a product that is found in more than half of packaged products in supermarkets around the world. In just the last 20 years, 80% of their forests have been completely torn down. Today, more than 50% of orangutans are found outside of protected areas, in forests under management by timber, palm oil, and mining companies. This puts them at risk for having their habitats taken and being left behind to wither away, unless, of course, they're killed during the deforestation process. In Borneo, even the protected spaces aren't completely safe. Their boundaries are not clearly specified, and the areas are both understaffed and underfunded, which allows the palm oil companies and logging firms to slip in and take over. Some foods that unethically source palm oil and kill orangutans in the process include Cheez-Its, Pepperidge Farm products, Girl Scout cookies, Ben & Jerry's, and McDonald's. So please avoid these brands and products at all costs, and support businesses who obtain their ingredients sustainably and humanely. For more info on what products use palm oil, visit the website below. Being educated on what products you're using is better for both you and for the animals who are being hurt to create them. Although habitat loss is the biggest threat, it's certainly not the only one. Other threats include the illegal pet trade, where young orangutans are taken from their parents in order to serve as pets to someone who has no business owning one. Certainly worth mentioning is that the mother is usually killed in this process. Pro tip: if you're not experienced with the animal or don't own a zoo or sanctuary, you don't need a wild animal. They will never be house pets. Uncontrolled forest fires are also a big threat to orangutans. In fact, from 1997 to 1998, a 6-month-long forest fire killed at least 8,000 orangutans. If the above factors weren't enough to convince you that we need to help orangutans, the next point should be the real kicker. Orangutans are illegally hunted for food in certain areas and sometimes killed for wandering into agricultural areas. We are killing off and eating, in some cases, a being that shares 97% of the same DNA as us. How is this possible? How can we as humans stand by and watch this happen? Look at their hands and their feet, even their faces. They couldn't be more human. I personally look at these animals and see a creature with emotion and feelings, and I can't imagine how anyone else cannot see that. It's time to take responsibility for our actions and help save these creatures. They need more protected space, and we need to stop letting big brands kill them off. We, as the consumers, have all of the power. If we stop supporting these brands and let them know that they'll lose business until they sustainably obtain their resources, they'll have no choice but the right one. Businesses can't function without a demand, and with a little bit of pressure, they can change their ingredients or how they get them in order to make their customers happy. It's funny, consumers seem to think that we can only take what's dished out to us by these mass producers, but that's just not the case. The suppliers are the ones who have to change to fit the consumer's wants and needs. So make them listen. Stand up. Be a voice for orangutans. Email companies. Tell them you won't buy their products until they get palm oil without hurting orangutans. Share this video. Start petitions. Educate your friends. Do anything in your power to get this changed. It is possible, and it begins by starting a movement that needs to start right now. It is time to save the orangutans and stop the palm oil massacre. We can't do it without you, so take a few minutes right now to research which companies use palm oil and contact the representatives of those companies and ask them to be more sustainable. Don't use their products until they listen. We can save orangutans, and we will save them if we do it together. Thank you all for your dedication and care for these animals, and we'll see you on the wild side.